Master told Luna and me to choose our own husbands. Luna chose our extraordinarily third senior brother, Ethan. I chose our hardworking, ordinary first senior brother, Victor. Who could have known that Ethan would one day fall, step onto the demonic path, and become the demon lord everyone spoke of in fear, cruel, bloodthirsty, utterly devoid of kinship, and that the ordinary Victor she'd looked down on would become the sect leader of the Sword Sect, supreme lord of the martial world. Luna, tortured until she was hardly human, slipped back to our sect in secret. Seething with hate, she dragged me off a cliff with her. When I opened my eyes again, we were both back on the day we chose our husbands. Luna rushed to pick Victor. I smiled. Luna had no idea. Whoever becomes the supreme lord of the world is up to me. Luna clung to Master's arm and wheedled, "Master, I've admired Victor since I was a child. Please say yes." Master looked at me, embarrassed. He knew I'd been with Victor day and night from the moment I entered the sect. I patted his shoulder, as unruly as ever. "Master, Luna has begged you this much already. Stop hesitating. I think Ethan has an incredible constitution. I'm very satisfied with him." On the wedding day, our disciples dragged back Ethan, who had been missing for days, and dumped him in the bridal hall. He was dead drunk. They propped him up just so he could bow to heaven and earth. Only when the bridal candles were nearly burned out did Master toss Ethan into the bridal chamber. He sprawled on the cold bluestone floor like a starfish, mumbling nonstop, "I don't want to marry you. Not at all." Anger surged in me. If it weren't for the fact that Victor is a beast in gentleman's clothing, I would never marry you, you little tyrant who only knows how to bully me. I ignored all propriety, yanked off my red veil, dragged Ethan, dead weight like a slaughtered hog, onto the bed, rolled up my sleeves and slapped him a few times. Ethan finally sobered a little. A chill surfaced in his half-open eyes. He suddenly seized my wrist, flipped me, and pinned me beneath him. His voice was as cold as the 12th-month wind. "Luna, you're ignoring the rules again." I twisted slightly, shook off his grip, grabbed his flushed cheeks in both hands, and snapped. "Drink, drink, drink, drank so much you don't even recognize people, and you still drink. Look clearly. I'm Iris." Ethan froze, staring at me for a long while before saying, half doubting, "Little Iris, why is it you? Wasn't I marrying Luna? With how you are, if Luna married you, you'd scare her to death." I shoved him as I spoke. He fell back, but his hands hooked around my arms and pulled me into his chest. His warm breath brushed my neck, and somehow I didn't push him away again. "Little Iris, I finally married you." My body went rigid. From the sound of it, Ethan had always held me in his heart, but this blockhead had never said a word. While my thoughts churned, Ethan had already undone my sash. The dragon and phoenix candles burned out right then, and the room sank into velvet black. I was a little nervous, but I'd already steeled myself for what was about to happen. Yet at the critical moment, Ethan suddenly stopped. I hooked my arms around his neck so he couldn't get up. His breathing grew heavier, but he still spoke gently, trying to persuade me. "Be good, don't do this. I won't be able to hold back. We're husband and wife, why can't we? If I say no, then it's no." I could feel his energy roiling as he forced it down, but the hard length pressed against my belly betrayed him. Unwilling to let it go, I pressed on. "Do you have me in your heart?" Ethan trembled lightly. Only after a long time did he squeeze out a single word. "Yes." "How much?" "All of it." So my guess had been right. How did I miss it completely in my last life? "Then why won't you touch me?" Silence fell again. Only when I prodded him did Ethan sigh and speak. "Iris, I might walk a road of no return one day. I don't want you despised and cursed by the world alongside me." "What? Could it be that I'm not the only one who was reborn?" I tested him. "If I'd married you in the last life, would you still have entered the demonic path?" Ethan's pupils dilated instantly. He stared at me in disbelief. "Iris, you too?" I smiled and nodded. "So this time we shouldn't miss each other again." "But Iris, I'm the demon lord, the villain in everyone's mouths. Aren't you afraid?" I didn't answer. I reached up and let the bed curtains fall. All I wanted was a pair for a lifetime, someone to watch distant mountains with and share the world. Besides, what's so scary about the demon sect? My father was the former demon lord. The next day, the four of us followed custom and served Master tea. He called Victor and Ethan into the inner room for a talk. Luna made a show of rubbing her waist as she sat down beside me, complaining through sound transmission. Victor really knows how to wear someone out. My back won't even straighten today. I focused on polishing my short sword and pretended to be deaf. Unwilling to give up, Luna kept fishing for conversation. I heard Ethan refused to enter the bridal chamber last night. Caused quite a stir. Seeing me still feigning deafness, she put on a look of pity. Don't be discouraged. Ethan has always been like that. If it really doesn't work, you can use special means. I sheathed my sword, raised my head, and met her gaze. Thank you for your concern, Luna. Ethan is quite good. I'm very satisfied. I deliberately straightened my collar as I spoke, revealing the obvious red marks on my neck. Compete with me in shamelessness? You're not qualified. My father's 3 concubines were each more foxy and wanton than the last. With your level, who do you think you are? Sure enough, Luna's smug smile vanished at once, replaced by stunned disbelief. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Ethan never touches women. You must have drugged him, you must have. I lounged back in my chair, lips curled, and continued to provoke her. You were married to him for years. Didn't you use enough drugs then? But did Ethan ever touch you? The jealousy in Luna's eyes flared hotter and hotter, but she knew she was in the wrong and didn't dare keep tangling with me. She just threw down a vicious line. So what if he touched you? Victor is the future sect leader of the Sword Sect, supreme of the martial world. At next month's martial arts assembly, you can wait to make a fool of yourself with Ethan. If she hadn't reminded me, I really might have forgotten. The martial arts assembly a month from now was a crucial turning point in our lives. After that, Victor caught the eye of the Sword Sect leader and leapt up to become his last and most favored disciple. Ethan, on the other hand, became everyone's laughingstock for losing to someone with less talent. He never recovered, and half a year later, he entered the Great Return and fell into the demonic path. Back on Skyreach Peak, which Master had allotted us, I immediately dug out a coverless, tattered, yellowed book from under the chamber pot. Ethan pinched his nose, lifted a corner of the book with 2 fingers, and eyed it with distaste and confusion. Madam, what kind of treasure is this that you have to hide it under the chamber pot? It'll air out. I spread the book on the stone table in the courtyard, fanning it as I explained. This is the good stuff. In our last life, you lost to Victor because of it. Ethan suddenly perked up. Ignoring the stench, he picked the book up and flipped through it. His furrowed brows gradually smoothed. His expression shifted from disbelief to surprise, then to joy. Madam, this is a peerless treasure. How did you get it? I answered lightly. Picked it up. But inside, I couldn't help apologizing. Sorry, Ethan. I didn't want to lie to you either. But I couldn't exactly tell you this is the return scripture, the demon sect's secret art that hasn't left the Great Return in 100 years. The martial arts assembly was held on Azure Cloud Peak, home of the Sword Sect. The matches lasted 7 full days. Only a handful of people made it through. Victor and Ethan drew each other's names again. The winner this time would face Gavin, the Sword Sect's first disciple, in a final showdown. I brought a little stool and sat in the open ground to watch. A figure suddenly blocked my view. I impatiently pushed her aside. Don't block my show. Luna was furious at my blatant disregard. She sat down beside me and spoke in a pinched, mocking tone. Show or no show, it's all the same. Victor's winning anyway. I waved my fan, eyes fixed on the ring. Who's letting out that fart? It stinks. You. Luna's face went red with rage. She hissed, let's see how long you can gloat. Iris, soon you'll be living a life worse than death. Enjoy your few good days while you can. While we were still bickering, things in the ring had already become intense. Very quickly, people realized Victor was falling behind. It was still early. Ethan had only cultivated the return scripture to about 50%, but that was more than enough to deal with Victor. At first, the crowd was only curious. Then the discussion started. Does the Windmoon sect have such martial arts? How have we never heard of it? Yeah, it's incredible. If we ran into him, we probably wouldn't last a single move. Could it be an evil art? Doesn't look like it. Every move and stance has structure, not like some crooked demonic trick. Exactly the same comments as in my last life. Except last time those compliments went to Victor. Now they were Ethan's. I wasn't worried about anyone recognizing what it was, because the return scripture wasn't a demonic art to begin with. It was written 100 years ago by the hermit master Cultivator Prime. Cultivator Prime was neither righteous nor demonic, so his work straddled both paths. Its nature depends entirely on the practitioner's inner energy. If the inner force is of the yang aspect, then it's righteous. If it's of the yin aspect, then it's demonic. Victor and Ethan inherited the same lineage. Both practiced a pure yang inner method. Their sword aura and sword forms looked very similar. To onlookers, it was like watching the rising sun, brilliant and magnificent. Only my father was different. When his sword aura emerged, it was netherworld and underworld, ghosts walking in daylight. Even I couldn't help shouting, "You villain!" By the time that thought passed, the outcome in the ring was already clear. Victor crashed heavily to the ground. Ethan stood over him, sword pointed down. Victor's face flushed red and white by turns. He looked utterly humiliated. I arched a brow and said to the dumbstruck Luna beside me, "Luna, better hurry and comfort Victor. I'm afraid his heart must be aching." "Holtz, don't be proud. Victor just slipped for a moment. He'll amaze you soon enough." Luna tossed that hard line over her shoulder, then staggered over to Victor, helping him away from the arena in a rush. I was quite curious how they planned to amaze me. There were still 3 days before the final duel. We'd planned to rest, but the next day Master summoned us to the Sword Sect's main hall. When we arrived in confusion, the place was already crowded with sect leaders from all over. And of course, 2 people stood out, Victor and Luna. As soon as Luna saw me, she flung herself down at Sect Leader Lu's feet, eyes brimming with tears. "It's them. They stole my husband's martial arts manual." So this was what she meant by amaze. 2 lifetimes, and Luna still hadn't grown at all. Sect Leader Lu turned his stern face toward Ethan and me. "Is this true?" he barked. "True. My foot. Obviously false. I was always quicker to speak than Ethan." "If we really stole it, why don't Victor and Luna show a few moves?" "Fine then." Luna drew her sword and leaped into the air, her wrist turning as she displayed a beautiful set of sword forms. To be fair, she did have some talent, but after one viewing, I could already mimic the surface of it. Unfortunately for her, the true essence of the return scripture has never lain in the moves. Luna tilted her chin smugly. "How about that, Iris?" "Not bad." I clapped my hands. "About on par with our Spring." Spring was the little maid I'd bought on the way to Azure Cloud Peak. She'd gone to watch the matches yesterday, too. I had someone fetch Spring and said, "Didn't you watch the matches yesterday? Show everyone the moves you remember." Spring's father had once been a disciple of the Void Sect, and Spring had learned a bit of scrappy kung fu since childhood. She had no inner strength, her techniques little more than flowery fists and embroidered kicks, but her imitation of the forms was quite decent. After she finished the set, no one had much left to say. If an ordinary little maid could pick it up, Luna obviously could too. I looked at Luna's flushed face and raised a brow. "Well, Luna, any more convincing proof?" Victor hurried to smooth things over. "Little Iris, why press so hard? The manual is my family heirloom. Our clan rules say it can't be studied until age 20, so I've never seen it. If you 2 have taken it, I'll just consider it a gift. We're one family after all." In my last life, I'd protected Victor too well. His path had been smooth and easy, and I'd never known he could be this shameless. I don't have family who lie so easily through their teeth. Master flushed and rushed to mediate. "Enough, all of you, say no more." Of all the people in the world, only Master could calm me. For his sake, I held my tongue, but Luna refused to let go. "Either you produce proof you didn't steal the manual, or you return the spot in the final duel to Victor." "Well now, you've got some nerve." There was no way I'd reveal the return scripture. But if it came down to a fight, 10 Lunas together still wouldn't beat me. I rolled up my sleeves, ready to start swinging. Ethan pressed down on my shoulder. He cupped his fists respectfully to Sect Leader Lu. "Sect Leader, why don't we fight another match? That way the seniors won't be put on the spot." Victor knew he was no match for Ethan and refused at once. "No, you've stolen my family art. That's not fair." "Enough, I have an idea," the Vice Sect Leader cut in. "There's an ancient divine sword, unsullied, sunk in the cold pool behind the mountain. Legend says only someone completely pure and good can draw it. Why don't you 2 try? Whoever pulls unsullied wins." Not only the right to enter the final duel, but the sword as well. If neither can pull it, we keep the original result. How about it? Luna was overjoyed at once and agreed on Victor's behalf. She knew that in the previous life it had been Victor who drew Unsullied. It had only happened after he became a Sword Sect disciple, though. This time the timing was different, but since a divine weapon chose its master, she assumed the result would be the same. Ethan knew as well. He glanced at me, hesitating. I nodded calmly, signaling him to agree. Very few people in the world knew that Unsullied was actually the sacred heirloom of the demon sect. When weapons sleep, people remain unsullied. If my mother hadn't been weak and sickly since childhood, unable to leave the Great Return, and if I weren't so uninterested in power and status, how would Unsullied have ended up lying at the bottom of the Sword Sect's cold pool for nearly 40 years? Since it's a divine weapon of the demon sect, that so-called pure and good person must be judged from the demon sect's point of view. And in the demon sect's eyes, there is only one truly pure and good person, the Saintess. And I am the only Saintess in this world. And so, off we went. Everyone moved together to the cold pool. They didn't just want to follow the crowd, they wanted a look at the weapon hailed as the world's greatest divine sword. Luna, full of confidence, spoke on Victor's behalf. Ethan, Iris, you try first, so you won't claim later that we bullied you. I waved her off. Victor and Luna, you go first. I'm afraid if we go ahead, you'll say we cheated again. If Victor can draw the sword first, we'll admit defeat on the spot. Luna snorted through her nose. You'd better keep your word. She leaned close to Victor's ear and whispered something. He straightened at once, his worry replaced by shining confidence. He strode up to Unsullied, gripped the hilt, and pulled with all his might. The air filled with a thunderous roar. The aura was like mountains crashing and seas overturning. Luna's face flushed red with excitement. She tilted her chin and gave me a contemptuous sidelong glance. Iris, you're about to lose. My husband will soon be the Sword Sect leader's last disciple. Suddenly, the shaking stopped. I patted Luna's shoulder, gloating. Don't be so quick to celebrate, Luna. Seems something went wrong. Luna rushed to the sealing stone in a few long strides. Sect leader Lu had already gotten there ahead of her. When he saw the sword still motionless, his excited expression collapsed into barely concealed disappointment. Having lost face twice in a row, Victor could no longer pretend to be a graceful gentleman. He grabbed Luna by the jaw, rage blazing in his eyes. Didn't you say an immortal told you in a dream I would definitely pull Unsullied? You lied to me. You worthless, useless wretch. Victor had always been this selfish. If you were useful to him, he treated you well. If not, he trampled you at will. But Luna didn't know that. All she knew was that he'd always doted on me in the last life, never realizing it was because he saw my value. Just like with this sword. If I hadn't been with him last time, how could he possibly have drawn Unsullied? Luna sat on the ground in a daze, staring at the sword in disbelief, muttering over and over, No, I didn't remember wrong. You can draw it. It must be the sword. It has to be. Nonsense. This is an ancient divine weapon. How dare you insult it? Sect leader Lu's face darkened. He ordered his disciples to drag the hysterical pair aside, then turned to Ethan. Young friend, would you still like to try? Some people had already begun to advise against it. Even Master, worried Ethan would end up like Victor, tried to dissuade him gently. Ethan, perhaps let it go. I slipped my hand into Ethan's at the right moment and said, I believe in you. Ethan had never feared heaven or earth. With my encouragement, he was even less likely to back down. With or without Master, not even the Jade Emperor himself could have stopped him. Hand in hand, we walked to the sealing stone and placed our hands on Unsullied's hilt together. This time, there was no roaring like crashing mountains, only the sound of ice cracking over the cold pool. A thin, sharp creak that somehow didn't grate on the ears. Just as everyone thought it was another failure, Unsullied soared from the stone and landed firmly in Ethan's hand. All sound around us vanished. Even Luna stopped sobbing. Good, a true hero in his youth. Sect leader Lu's booming voice shattered the deathly silence. The others woke from their shock at last and praise echoed through the cavern. Sect leader Lu gripped Ethan's arm, his gaze kind as if he'd found a long-lost son. You truly are pure and good. That accusation of stealing another's manual, I would sooner die than believe it. As he finished speaking, his eyes slid, seemingly by chance, toward Victor and Luna. The vice sect leader understood. He turned to the Sword Sect disciples. Men, throw those two liars out of the sect. Without my order, they are never to set foot on Azure Cloud Peak again. 5 Sect Leader Lu wanted to take Ethan as his last disciple. Ethan declined politely, saying he'd give his answer in a year. Knowing Ethan still had unfinished business, Sect Leader Lu didn't press him, only promising to wait on Azure Cloud Peak. Victor and Luna vanished after being expelled from the Sword Sect. I figured soon enough they would walk the same path Ethan had in the last life. Pointed at by the world. Laughed at. At first, Master had wanted to bring those 2 stray dogs back to the Windmoon Sect, but no matter how he searched, they were nowhere to be found. Stooped and dejected, he took us back to Windmoon Mountain. Such a kind old man. He worried about everyone but himself. He was over 70 yet still went down the mountain every day. Afraid he'd disturb our cultivation, he never told us, always slipping out alone. He'd tuck 2 steamed buns into his robe and search all day. Ethan and I had noticed from the beginning. Not wanting to hear him chase us back, we always followed from a distance. That day, the sun was high. Master, exhausted, stopped halfway up the mountain to rest. Ethan and I leaned against a big tree nearby, chatting. I'd had a question bottled up for a long time, and now I finally had a chance to ask. Why didn't you stay in the Sword Sect? Others would kill for that opportunity. Ethan looked at the white-haired old man massaging his legs in the distance, worry plain on his face. I'm afraid Master will meet the same fate as last time. So Master's death at the Great Return in the last life, it wasn't your doing. Of course not. I might kill anyone else, but not you, and not Master. I knew Ethan's nature. Even when the world painted him as a disciple-slaying demon, I'd never believed it. I'd always had my own suspect in mind. Luna, right? Before we died together, I'd finally learned how much she hated Master, for favoring others, for pushing her into the fire pit. I shared my thoughts, but Ethan only shook his head bitterly. That day, after Master persuaded me to leave, Luna came to quarrel with me. She wouldn't stop yapping, so I sealed all her acupoints. No one but me could undo it. That was new to me. I asked carefully, then who do you think it was? I'm not sure. His hesitation jolted a buried detail in my memory. The day Master was killed, Victor wasn't at the Sword Sect. A disciple told me he'd gone to the Skyvoid Sect for an appointment. I believed it. I never suspected him, not even at my death. It was Master's death that truly ignited the war between righteous and demonic paths. Looking back now, I could only think of one possibility. Victor had orchestrated everything. He needed a righteous excuse to wipe out the demon sect. My fists clenched until my nails dug into my palms. I'd only hated Luna before. Now, I wanted one more life on my ledger. But a traitor who kills his own master and harms his own sect, letting him die quickly, would be too kind. Didn't he dream of being the Supreme Lord high above, looking down on all beings? Fine. I'd send him up into the clouds, then drag him down to hell from the highest point. 3 months later, the martial world buzzed with a new rumor. The Demon Lord had descended. After 15 years, the demon sect's followers once again appeared across the 9 provinces. Word was, they were searching for a manual called the Return Scripture. The great sects sharpened their swords and waited, treating it like an imminent catastrophe. Only I sat lazily on the swing in my courtyard, stroking Rusty as he dozed in my lap. Well done, you'll get a drumstick tonight. Rusty was the dog that had followed me out of the Great Return. He knew the way there perfectly, which is how he'd been able to drop the bone whistle on the only path leading into the Great Return. That whistle was my father's personal token. Anyone close to us would recognize it. As long as Victor took the bone whistle into the Great Return, it would be easier for the cult to accept him. I wanted him to sit on that demon lord's throne. Hadn't he once righteously declared he would eradicate the demonic and protect the world? Now that he stood in that very position, shouldn't he get a good taste of being reviled by everyone? Just as I was about to come clean to Ethan about my plan to use Victor and then destroy him, Andy arrived with shocking news. Master was missing. In recent days, Master had sunk into guilt over failing to find Victor and Luna. He was visibly aging, and his mind had begun to slip. When clear, he was no different from before. When his illness struck, he forgot everything. At first, we thought he simply couldn't find his way home. But after 3 days of searching, Ethan and I realized something was very wrong. There was no one in the town below Wind Moon Mountain who didn't know Master. Even if he were lost, someone would have notified the Wind Moon Sect. And Master always had lucid moments. He wouldn't be gone this many days without returning. That left only one possibility. He hadn't wandered off. He'd been taken. Sure enough, 7 days later, a carrier pigeon landed on our windowsill. I recognized the handwriting. It was Luna's. She told Ethan and me to go alone to the Great Return. Unlike Ethan, whose brows knit in concern, I let out a long sigh of relief. Nowhere was truly safe, but the Great Return was as safe as it got. From floating Summit Mountain, it took 49 mountains to reach the Great Return. Ordinary people needed at least 15 days on foot. We made it in 3. We were simply too familiar with the Great Return. Beyond the passage, cultists were waiting to receive us. We followed the dim tunnel for about the time it takes 3 sticks of incense to burn, and finally emerged into the demon hall. In truth, the Great Return wasn't as mysterious as the legends claimed. It was just countless ancient tombs, linked together deep in the mountains. The demon hall was the main burial chamber, large enough for 10,000 people. Victor was sitting in the seat of honor, looking down at us. Luna sat on the right. On the left sat 3 madams in a row, all strikingly beautiful. Master lay collapsed on the round dais in the center of the hall, his state unknown. Unsullied had been taken from us before we entered the tunnel. Now we were unarmed. Ethan stepped in front of me to shield me and whispered, "I'll hold them off. You grab Master and run. Don't be reckless." I gripped his hand and spoke with no room for argument. "Do as I say. Enough with that tragic show of deep love." Luna sneered. "Soon you'll both be dead anyway." Victor dropped all pretense of being a refined gentleman of the righteous path, his voice sharp and vicious. "So what if you beat me, Ethan? You still came crawling here to die." Luna swayed her hips as she walked up to Ethan, seized his chin, and glared at him with hatred. "Now I finally understand. It's not the Demon Lord's throne that's bad, it's you." She turned her head toward me with a gloating smile. "Little Iris, so what if Victor obeyed your every word last time? In this life, he still ended up as my lapdog." A laugh slipped from my lips. Clearly, Luna still didn't understand Victor's nature. Stung that I didn't take her seriously, Luna slapped me across the face. I stopped Ethan with a look as he was about to explode and kept provoking her. "Want to see your Demon Lord husband's true face?" She spat, as if. "Victor doesn't love you at all." I sighed. "Oh, Luna, don't you get it yet? For a woman, the least reliable thing in this world is a man's love." "Shut up." Failing to get the answer she wanted, Luna only grew more agitated. "You're not worthy to tell me that. In both lives, haven't you basked in glory by leeching off men?" I waved a finger. No, you've got it wrong. It's not that I rely on men. Men rely on me." Tired of wasting words on her, I turned to Victor on the throne. "Get your wife out of the way. I'll make you an offer you can't refuse." Unwilling but obedient, Luna retreated to her seat, eyes wide as she glared at me. "Speak. What's the offer?" Victor asked. "Let Ethan take Master away first, and then you'll kill Luna with your own hands." "Iris, in your dreams!" Luna, who just calmed down, flew into another rage. Victor shot her a displeased glance. "Sit down. Look at yourself." "Little Iris, what makes you think you're in any position to bargain with me?" "Because I have the return scripture." "What?" Before Victor could react, the 3 madams leapt to their feet in unison. I pressed my hand down in a calming gesture. Sit. Still so easily startled after all this time?" Shock showed plainly on their faces, but in the end they chose to sit quietly again. My 3 dear aunties had surely recognized me. After all, no one but my late father could have been frightened half to death so many times by their theatrics, except me. Victor thought they were only concerned about the manual and noticed nothing amiss. Suspicion filled his gaze. "How do you prove what you're saying?" I pointed at the 3 madams. "Have them take a look." I pursed my lips and blew a whistle toward the entrance. A fierce gust of wind howled in, and Unsullied landed steadily in my palm. "Is that Unsullied?" the eldest madam gasped. "Shh." I raised a finger to my lips. "Quiet when you watch the show." That madam shot the other 2 a meaningful glance. All three turned silent. I ran through a simple set of sword forms. The three madams lost their composure at once, all speaking at once. That sword intent, no mistake. That's the return scripture. Yes, I saw the previous demon lord use it. Wonderful. The return scripture has finally surfaced. Victor felt something was off and asked again, Guardian madams, are you certain? Is it truly the return scripture? It looks like basic beginner forms to me. Oh, not blind then. It was indeed the first set of forms Master had taught us when we entered the sect. I'd never studied properly, and in a pinch this was all I had. Luckily, someone was there to cover for me. First madam nodded so hard her head almost bobbed off. No mistake, the return scripture lies in sword intent, not the moves. Second madam snapped, is the demon lord questioning our judgment? Third madam said acidly, if you don't believe us, you can always turn down the return scripture. Victor, cowed by the three of them, had no room left for doubt. He pointed at Ethan. Take Master and go. Little Iris stays. Ethan, of course, was unwilling, but I kept pinching his thigh hard, and he finally hoisted Master onto his back and left the hall. Next condition. Victor can begin, I said. As Victor advanced step by step, Luna collapsed in terror, scrambling backward on instinct. She backed herself right to my feet. I blocked her path with my leg and tilted my head at Victor. No need to thank me, Victor. Husband, don't listen to that sluts. I'm the only one who truly cares about you, Before she could finish, his sword had already pierced her heart. Staring at the blade through her chest, Luna lifted a trembling hand to point at me with her last strength. Slut. I crouched beside her unblinking corpse and patted her cheek lightly. My dear Luna, do you still think men are reliable? If you get another life, don't count on one again. She's already dead. What's the use of saying this? Victor's voice was cold and stiff, as if the dead woman had nothing to do with him. Oh, Luna, I truly pitied you. How could you entrust everything to a man this cold and selfish? Victor saw nothing wrong. His mind was fixed only on the manual. The return scripture. You can give it to me now, yes? I pursed my lips into an innocent smile. I changed my mind. You, what about me? I just wanted to trick you into killing Luna yourself, so she could see what a beast you really are. Well then, your turn now. Victor exploded, striking at me from midair without warning. For all his rotten character, he'd indeed worked hard at his martial arts. By contrast, I'd lazed my days away. I had no time to dodge that strike. At that exact moment, a figure burst from the passage. Ethan arrived in the nick of time and caught Victor's palm strike. Because he came from the side, the force sent him staggering several steps. Victor sneered, So what if you save her once? This is my domain. You think you're leaving alive? Men, carve them into 1,000 pieces for me. Countless cultists surged from the darkness, hemming the three of us in. I shoved Ethan forward and gave him a thumbs up. All yours, husband. Use your return scripture and wipe them out. So many. It'll take a while, Ethan said, troubled. Who told you to kill them all? Just kill Victor. Understood, madam. Ethan gathered his energy, then paused as a thought struck him. Wait. What did you say? Return scripture? When did I ever practice that? Honestly. How slow can you be? That manual I hid under the chamber pot is the return scripture. Understanding dawned on Ethan's face. Victor's face, by contrast, turned ashen. He backed up a few steps and gestured for the cultists to attack. But instead of advancing, they all backed away. In no time, the enormous demon hall held only 6 of us. The 3 madams grabbed me and dragged me to a safe distance, scolding under their breath the whole way. Little ancestor, how have you not improved at all after all these years? Who inherited your father's talent for martial arts, if not you? Stay back. If you get hurt, we'll never keep your father in his coffin. Ethan was as baffled as Victor. I hopped with impatience. Don't just stand there. Fight. As expected, Victor lost. Even though Ethan hadn't fully mastered the return scripture, Victor was no longer his match. Ethan meant to finish him with a thrust to the throat, but I stopped him. I wanted this master-killing, sect-betraying traitor to kneel before everyone and lose the face he'd spent his life maintaining. That would be far more painful than a quick death. So that very night, after he'd been judged, Victor slit his own throat in the Sword Sect's dungeon. Ignoring the world's objections, Master personally prepared the coffins for Victor and Luna and buried them on Falling Cloud Peak, where they had once lived. He didn't blame us, but he did blame himself. Blamed himself for failing to guide them toward kindness. From then on, the old man who'd loved braised pork switched to a vegetarian diet and entered the Buddhist path. Ethan refused the Sword Sect's offer. In the end, he chose to guard the Great Return, giving up the supreme position over the martial world. He said there was no absolute line between righteous and demonic paths. The righteous had their villains, the demonic had their good men. He wanted to show the world that the demon sect could become a proper, honorable school. Sect leader Lu and the righteous sects trusted the judgment of Unsullied's choice. So when Ethan shared his decision, although they were shocked at first, in the end they chose to watch with open minds. Those demon sect followers who had lived in damp darkness for so long could finally walk in the sun. They could at last live like normal people, marry, have children, and enjoy life. With such a kind lie, why not? As for me, under the indulgent shelter of my demon lord husband, I went on as the idle, time-wasting saintess of the demon sect. My biggest daily headache was dealing with my 3 chattering aunties. Speak of the devils, they were here again. Girl, embroidered cloud pavilion has new cloth in. Come with me to have a look before it's all snatched up. Girl, grab me 2 boxes of honey osmanthus rouge from 100 Fragrances house. Oh, and don't forget the peach crisps from the east end of town. Girl, help me look at these portraits. Tell me which young man is better. I think my second bloom is coming. So noisy. I fled to Master Sumeru Temple. The old man no longer remembered anything or recognized anyone, but he still wouldn't push away my head when I leaned it on his shoulder. The stone bench at the temple gate faced Wind Moon Mountain. The Wind Moon Sect hid in drifting clouds and mist. Only a corner of its red bronze gate could be seen. The current sect leader of Wind Moon Sect was Master's last disciple, Andy. Under his leadership, the Wind Moon Sect had become the second greatest sect in the world, surpassed only by the Sword Sect. Master pointed at the faintly visible gate and asked, "What place is that?" "That's called the Wind Moon Sect." "That name's no good. Flowers, wind, moon, snow, not imposing at all. What would sound imposing then?" He cocked his head, thought, and smiled like a child. "It should be called the Great Return." "Master, the Great Return is the demon sect." "What's the demon sect?" "It's what they call the demonic, the heretical." "And why does calling it the demon sect make it heretical?" "Then what is righteous and what is demonic?" "If your heart holds kindness, you are righteous. If it holds malice, you are demonic." "Girl, let me tell you a story. I once had 4 disciples,